So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful and yet the last episode of the Kirooto Consults podcast this year. And how good can it be to close the year with none other than Kofi? Kofi is a name that, if you can say that, that highlight name you can talk about in the international education landscape. Kofi is a very decisive and influential figure when it comes to study abroad, particularly when it comes to study in Germany, and particularly when it comes to studying at the PFH. And the topic that we'd like to discuss today is a very interesting one, which is about employability. And we are looking at employability, looking at the international students body, and looking at how can institutions spearhead or champion that task of ensuring that international graduates find employment. Because statistics have shown that this is becoming one of the most crucial topics and the factor of decision-making that students are considering when it comes to choosing where they want to go, which university they want to choose to go study abroad, and which course they want to study. Usually they are looking at, where does this take me after graduation? So good morning, everyone. From Germany, I am talking to PFH. My name is Stephen Bwete, the co-host of Kirooto Consults podcast and the founder of Kirooto International Consults. So happy and delighted to have you, Kofi. Please, the viewers to know, who is Kofi exactly?
Thank you very much, Stephen. I think this is a great opportunity to tell everyone that besides having the name Kofi, which is Ghanaian, I also have the name Mukasa, which was given to me by you when I was with you in Uganda earlier this year.
That's correct.
And look at the contrast. We were in our t-shirts and, our shorts and our sandals and slippers. And here we are bundled up today because, the weather is also something that we need to take into consideration. Another factor when we talk to prospective international students, about culture shocks, climate changes, just a general difference when they come to us studying abroad. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So my name is Kofi Boachie-Danquah. I work for the PFH in the capacity of the Global Sales Manager. And what this means is that I'm very fortunate to talk to people like you, Stephen, who advise, who reach out, who counsel students about what it means to study abroad, where they want to study, what they are looking to study, and then most importantly, how they are looking to have this study affect or really choose a future for them in terms of career, in terms of working opportunities, which, like you said, have or has become really a key indicator as to how students choose their locations to study abroad. So I'm really excited to be talking to you about this topic today. And I think we're going to have a really good, conversation between the two of us as we usually do. So thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you so much, Kofi. I know you're always very modest at talking about your profile at PFH, but I think that is you. Kofi, we'll go straight into the topic of the day. Maybe if you could share a global perspective about the graduate market, because PFH is focusing on graduate studies. Could you share your insights into the whole graduate market? And I'll give you a big background of this. I attended your session at ICEF 2025 last November in Berlin. And I couldn't say how excited I was to learn about what is the role of institutions in this whole journey of student employability. And you are very passionate about what PFH does and what institutions should do. I would like us to understand the global market perspective. Maybe if you could start with that.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing right now, Stephen, not just talking about Germany, but, really all across the world, is that there has been pretty much a lull, let's call it that, in hiring, graduate students. This is not because of anything that the students have done, but generally, we know the economic situation we're all living in. It's affecting everyone from the Western countries to the global South. It's really something that is felt all over the world. But it's also interesting, Stephen, and we've talked about this, that even in this lull in hiring, we're still seeing that there are people who are being taken into companies on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. Now, why is this happening? We have to examine and we have to look at what the labor market is asking for and requiring at the moment, right? So this is what makes the difference between who is getting into a company and who is not at the moment. Now we're looking at people who are working in the different management fields and what they bring to, for example, project management and what talking about general management and talking about people who are coming with a very defined set of skills, perhaps in computer science, in AI, in data analytics, looking at people who are also designing user experiences for companies as well. Now, we're also looking at people who have backgrounds in engineering, who have backgrounds in technology, who have really backgrounds established in the STEM subjects, like we're just talking about a few months ago. And these are the people that we are gradually seeing are coming out of this really slow labor market unaffected because they have the skills, they have the knowledge, and they have the bandwidth to be able to pivot, to be able to move from one location to the next based on the experience and also the education that they have built. Now, when I bring it back to Germany, this is a global overview, but when you bring it back to Germany, the picture doesn't change too much. What we see is that this is a very similar trend that German companies or the German labor market is following. It's looking for people who are skilled in management functions. It's looking for people who are skilled in, management procedures and processes with an emphasis on those especially who are coming from, user experience, user design, people who are coming from a Master of Business Administration background, people who are coming from a data analytics, data science background, and then also people who have worked in STEM. So the German labor market is really mirroring what we're seeing globally. And this is why it's extremely important, that universities, which are giving the education, are able to really design and put out programs which will ensure that after the student is done studying, they have really a good pathway to enter into the labor market within a relatively quick time as possible. Yes.
Thank you very much, Kofi, for again highlighting that particular point of interest. Again, just to drive down deeper into this whole subject, do you see a difference between the needs? What do employers want? In comparing local or domestic graduates and international graduates, are there any differences in terms of demands and wishes and needs from the employer's perspective?
This is a very interesting question. And this is why, and you and I have talked about this a lot, where we say for international students, when you come into a new country, the clock already begins to tick. And it begins to tick in the sense that employers are looking for people that perhaps they can train in their systems, but they do not have to train you in the overall function of the job. I'll explain what that means. In the sense that if you go to a new company as a new recruit, as a new employee, they are looking to just train you in the systems that you will use to perform the functions for them. Now, they are not looking to give you a complete overview of the job that you have to do because they believe that you should already come to them with some experience, especially if you're a graduate student. I would have loved, I think I mentioned this to you a while back, if somebody had told me this even when I was studying as a graduate student myself, because I think what a lot of international students do, if they are looking to remain in a country, is they come in, they focus on their studies as they should, and when they are done with their studies, they begin to think, okay, what is the next step for me? Now, employers are not looking for this anymore. They are looking for people who are coming to them already baked, already knowledgeable, already skilled. They just want to give you a reskilling in their systems and in their processes. And I think this is what is important for all international students as compared to, let's call them the local students they come to meet in their countries of study. Because these students are already privileged to be in a system which allows them to have internships from as young as 16 years old, to start working from as young as 17. So by the time they get to their mid or late 20s and even into their 30s, they have built a wealth of experience that they just take into the labor market after they are done studying. But with people who are coming from, third-party countries, these are countries not the country they are studying in, not within that continent, but outside, this is where it gets a bit difficult. So these students need to be on top of their game. They need to come here. They need to look for internships alongside their studies. They need to build experience alongside their studies. They need to network in the right places alongside their studies. This is what employers are looking out for at the moment. And this is why, as an international student, the clock begins to tick not after you have graduated, but even when you start your study, the first day you come into the country.
That's a powerful line there.
Yep.
So the clock begins to count the day you
Yeah.
take that flight here.
That first day. That
And
first day,
this
Stephen.
and this is the secret that I find less communicated to students, because I see or I meet a lot of students while they are doing this, they're having this 18-month job search visa, they start looking for jobs.
Precisely.
And in some cases, it's too late. They start even learning the German language. And so the process starts way earlier than that.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I studied at a public university in Germany, not at a private one. And I think that was a trend a lot of us followed. So we studied, we, completed our studies, and then within 18 months, we began to take German as a language. We began to look for jobs, after we were done with our school. Or our studies in school. But what we do at the PFH, because we are a university, a private university that is really focused on really transitioning our graduates from our campus and into the labor market, right? So what we are doing is that if you come to us as a graduate student, in the second semester of your studies, we expect that you should take up what we call a compulsory internship. Now, this is an internship that is going to complement the study program that you are currently undertaking. So if you're an MBA student, you're a UX UI management student, you are a computer science for business student, which will begin in April of 26, or you are a general management student, we expect you to take up a compulsory internship starting from the second semester of your studies. What this does is that with a name brand organization, with some work experience under your belt, it makes it easier for you to be able to do that transition, from academia into industry when you are done studying. This doesn't mean that it's going to be the smoothest process. I think we also have to be honest about that. But it gives you a leg up, in the process that you are trying to undertake, where you are competing with people who perhaps do not have any German, or European working experience, who perhaps do not have the German language skills, which we also teach for free at the PFH as well. So these are the little things that we have to do, in addition to making sure that we are designing courses which are relevant for the industry, that we are also internally working on developing our students so that when they are done, they are able to transition onto the labor market successfully. Yes.
Powerful, powerful. I'm really grateful to hear that. And I'm sure very many viewers or students or potential students who would like to hear that. Kofi, there is something that I am noticing in the market out there. And I also think you've been reading reports, recent DAD findings or reports about the improvement of the German international student landscape, currently at about 450,000 international students and so on. And often Germany is cited as a model for post-study pathway. Why is it like that? Why is it becoming such a hot cake to be a graduate in Germany?
This is an absolutely crucial point that you have raised, Stephen. And a few years ago, I can even talk about it from my experience when I came here a few years ago. You only came to Germany for two reasons: if you had a personal connection, or if there was a very niche or specific subject that you wanted to study. And I think when you appeared on our podcast as well, we talked about this aspect of the German international education journey. So Germany was not a place or a destination that people thought about unless there was a particular reason to go there. Why has Germany become attractive? So many reasons. Like you rightly said, we have seen an uptick of almost close to 500,000 international students in Germany. I predict that within the next 5, 10 years, we could hit 1 million international students in this country, because you are the one who is out there speaking to the students. I am the one here really talking to the education partners, and we are seeing that Germany is growing as a destination. It's becoming a model of what it means for an international student, because students feel very well supported here when they come into this country. There are already communities which exist here. You talk about the Indian student community, which is the largest that we have. We talk about the African student community, which I believe comes in second, if I'm not mistaken. And then we also talk about, for example, students who come from other parts of the world, the Spanish-speaking students. We talk about those who are coming from the MENA region, so those who speak Arabic. We talk about those who are speaking it lots of different languages and communities. So there's already a backdrop for students to feel comfortable when they come into this country. Now, there is also a shortage of skilled labor. What literally translates to people who are trained in the know-how and also the processes of a job or of jobs. This is due to a number of reasons, which we do not have enough time to discuss today. But what this means is that Germany is looking to welcome, students or prospective workers from third-party countries. Again, meaning students or people who are not from Europe, who are not from Germany, and are coming from outside of the continents to be able to come and fill in these positions. Another thing which is also very crucial is that Germany is one of the few countries that offers a very stable pathway, very clearly defined and stable pathway, to getting a working permit, to getting a residence permit, to getting permanent residence, and then eventually to getting citizenship. So students are looking at all of this. And it's also very important to note that the study abroad journey has moved from people wanting to go abroad for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, coming back to their home country and leveraging on those contacts. Now, international education has become a way by which people immigrate. People begin new lives in different countries. So people sit down, they look at all of the options, they look at the geopolitical situation where what's happening in the UK, what's happening in the US, what's happening in Australia, what's happening in Canada. And they weigh all the options and say, well, I may not speak German. I may not want to, go to a place which is not as recognized when it comes to international education as these other four countries which I've mentioned. But I believe I have a stable pathway, to getting a working visa after my studies. I believe within 7 years I can become a citizen. I believe within 5 years I can get permanent residence. I believe after my studies I have 18 months, to look for a job, and also that my university, like the PFH does, will be able to support me in beginning the first steps of this journey. And I think this, in addition to a lot of different reasons, the Chancen Charter, which has been introduced by the German government, talking about the different ways by which people immigrate into Germany. All of this is adding to make it a really important and a really interesting destination for students now.
Well, that is extremely well explained, Kofi, and it brings me right to my next question, which is the role of PFH, zeroing down to PFH, because I like the transition that you've given from students coming to Germany previously due to some form of connections to the current state where they're very intentional about the decision coming to Germany based on so many reasons that you've pointed out. But now we want to say, I intentionally want to come to PFH, and my ultimate goal is employability. I am very keen on employment opportunities after graduation. So how does PFH help international students in the employability aspect?
Yes. Also another great question. I feel like we're doing a backdrop from when you came on our podcast, and you loved all my questions, and now I love all your questions. But yes, I think what it is, Stephen, is that it's also very important, depending on what you want to do with your education. And I think this is where partners such as Kirooto do a great job in not just sending students because, a student comes and says, I want to study abroad. You need to understand what the student is looking to do with their education, even after they are done with it, right? So this is where at the PFH, we first want to understand, what are you looking to do with your education? Why do you want to do an MBA? What is your desire to enter into the UX UI management space? Why do you think you would be a good candidate for our computer science for business program? when we talk about our new mobility, micro-mobility program, why do you think this is something which you would be a good fit for? So it's not just about wanting to get the education. We want to understand what you want to do with it. And we have looked at what the industry is lacking. We have looked at what the industry, is seeking for at the moment. And we have designed courses which ensure that when students are done with us at the PFH, it will be really smooth sailing, for lack of a better word, from academia into industry, because the industry is looking for what these students have to offer, right? So from the moment that they come to us, there's already an understanding of this is what you are going to study. This is how you are going to study it. This is how we are going to support you to develop yourself both professionally, personally, socially, and also most importantly, this is when you are going to finish your education and move out into the labor market. It's no secret that the labor market, really transforms itself every few years with what it looks out for, who it looks out for, and then also, most importantly, the skills that it needs to be able to move ahead. This is why at the PFH, we are keeping our finger, on the pulse to be able to ensure that students are coming to us for industry relevant subjects. They are coming to be trained as not just managers who occupy, I like to tell students, the corner office, but managers who create impact. We're training engineers who are going to work and to push the companies they are working in. And most importantly, we're training workers who are going to contribute, to the eventual labor market that they decide to stay in, be it Germany or be it internationally, be it locally in their home regions. So students come to us with a full awareness that we have the courses which are relevant, we have the skills which are also relevant, and we want to merge these two things to make them relevant for the labor market.
Wow, there is that line that you just said right there. We're not preparing you for some jobs around the corner there, but for serious jobs, strategic
Absolutely.
management jobs. That's
Absolutely.
powerful, and I'm sure many students would see themselves in that angle. Which
Absolutely.
brings me to the next question, Kofi, about the role of industry and the expectations of industry. Because I'm sure when PFH is designing courses, they are also keen about the needs of the employers. So how do industry expectations influence the degree design for PFH particularly? Walk us through about that process.
I mean, here I can talk about, I like to describe it as our new baby, which is coming out in 2026, our Computer Science for Business program. And, data is the new gold. We hear this phrase being thrown around almost every single day. What does this mean? In addition to working in sales, I also teach a course at the PFH, and I tell my students every single day that when you are that head of department, that project manager, that team leader who will be addressing your C-suite one day, and your CFO, your CMO, your CEO, CTO are all sitting there, and you are going to them and telling them, I need 3 million for this project. This is what I expected to do. They will sit back and look at you and ask, why should I invest 3 million of my company's hard-earned money into this market? And this is where you have to convince them based on the data that you have sourced, based on the information that you have received, and the market research that you have done, that investing 3 million hard-earned euros, Stephen, of your company's money, into this market is going to bring the returns that you are looking for. Now, based on this understanding and based on data's relationship with AI, what we have done at the PFH is to design a computer science for business course, which is really a merge of data science, data analytics, and AI, and how it is specifically applied to the business context, how it informs, workers, or how it informs managers to be able to make those key decisions about where you invest, how you invest, and what to invest, how it informs managers to make, again, decisions about what kind of processes that you need to do to be able to run efficiently, or what kind of workflows you need to adopt. But then also, most importantly, what kind of business organizational structure do you need to do to ensure that, for example, the marketing flow is working in relation with the operations flow, and operations is working in relation, with the finance flow. So this is the gap we have seen on the market. We've seen that there's a need, there's the desire to have skilled, workers who are trained and knowledgeable in these fields. And we have created a course, which is going to launch next year to be able to address this gap in the market. So this is really one of the many ways that we at the PFH really see what it means to have students come to us to be trained in the skills which are necessary for the labor market, and then also churn them out to be able to create or make that impact when they get out there. We also did it with, we can talk about our new mobility and micro mobility program, talking about sustainable movement for the future. We also did it with our lightweight engineering program, talking about sustainability in the aviation industry. How do we build, airplanes with less corrosive, more environmentally friendly, metals and parts that will give us the same efficiency, but less of the environmental damage that we have seen from what is currently existing. So this is how we work around it. We have a magnificent team that really understands the market, understands the needs of the industry, and we really design programs to make sure that the needs of the industry and also academia are complementing at the same time.
Wow. 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 Thank you so much. Again, I can't say more. I can't add on anything to that. And I would just like to connect this to the time when I visited PFH. You mentioned something about the 3Ds, how this is going to be crucial in the next jobs or the jobs of the future. And this is very particular of PFH. Would you like to briefly talk about that?
Yes, thank you again. That is a very important aspect of future or, life as it's going to unfold in the future. So when we talk about the 3Ds, we are talking about three concepts which are really going to affect, how we live, how we work, how we survive for well into the future. So talking about demography, talking about decarbonization, and then also talking about digitalization, right? And these are the facets which are going to affect our individual, our collective lives, as we move ahead into the future. We need to understand the demographic wants of the world. Now, here we are talking about population, talking about the divide in population, talking about the gender divide in population, and then also talking about the location divide in population. You and I, originally come from the African continent, which has, by all means and intent, the youngest or the most youthful population in the world. Now, what happens if we are not developing that population as well as we need to? Then we see a mass exodus of people wanting to leave the continent and coming to, different places, not just Europe now, but also Asia. They also want to go to South America. They also want to go to Australia. But then what happens to the continent? So this is how we are also training our students, to be able to understand this. Now, we're also talking about digitalization, which is a very key aspect of the way the world is working now. And just to take it back to our computer science for business program, where a lot of companies these days, if they do not have the right data, they do not have the right information, really see that they fall behind. You remember my former boss, Lynn, who, before you went up to her, she would always tell you, okay, what are your statistics, right? Because before you approve anything, before you can work anything into your system, it's always very important to understand what is the data that you have to back these choices or these decisions that you want to make. Now, the fact that this is asked does not mean you always will get it correct, but it's just that you are not working from a gut feeling, that you are coming from a very informed perspective. And when we also talk about, decarbonization, here we are talking about the fact that we need to leave the planet in a way that will ensure sustenance for generations after we have left, to be able to enjoy. So everything that we study, everything that we work, and everything that we produce has to have an element of sustainability. So this is why we have combined what we call the 3Ds, and we have influenced our lessons and our classes and our training concepts by these 3Ds to ensure that every student who leaves our campus and goes into industry is influenced by these benchmarks. How sustainable do you want to be? how digitalized you want your organization to become. And in doing these things, how are you ensuring that the population of the world is being served by your decision making? So these are the 3Ds, and we believe that it's a very relevant concept to the way that we will live and work in the future.
Oh, I was on mute. Brilliantly well explained, Kofi. Thank you so much for elaborating on the 3Ds, because I believe everything that you've just said, it's kind of embedded into these benchmarks of the future jobs. And I would like us to transition, Kofi, if you mind, to the student journey. Before students come to PFH or before they come to Germany, there is a journey that comes before that.
Absolutely.
And in this journey, we have different stakeholders and players. We have the schools, the universities, and then we have the education counselors or the agencies, which are kind of the middlemen or the go-between between the institutions of higher learning in Germany, in the US, in Canada. And they're also going between the students and the parents, and the schools and the career teachers and so on. And we believe that these people are playing a very crucial role. Now, talking about employability, what should be the role of these agencies or international student counselors, the likes of Kirooto Consults and Affordable Study Consults, and name it? What should be their role in this whole conversation?
This is a really good question, and I think for me, it was very fascinating to see how partners have become a very integral part of the study abroad journey. When I was applying to study abroad, I did everything myself. I went through the entire process myself, but I can understand that now with the different dynamics, the geopolitical situation, partners have become a very, very important player in this whole process. There are people who don't understand, what it means for the dynamics in the US, what it means for the dynamics in the UK, in Australia and Canada and Germany. So this is why it's always good to have partners who are able to talk them through this process. You talked at the beginning about my modesty, but I think I'll throw it over here back to you when I say it's really good to have and to work, with partners like Affordable Study Consult. I see Faith from the team on the line. Also to work with you, Stephen, from Kirooto Consulting, because here we have two partners in Uganda that really understand what it means to go through the process, of first identifying the desire to study abroad, secondly, of putting together the documents, and then also putting together all of the relevant information to be able to make this happen, and then third, moving to the country of your choice. And it's important to work with partners who also understand, like I said previously, what it means for a student to study abroad. Do they want to come back? Do they want to build a new life in their home country? Do they want this education to influence their labor prospects and then also how they want to work in the future? And I'm really happy, Stephen, to be working with people like you, because you are able to understand it from the student's point of view and are able to tell them what a good course is, what a relevant one is, and how this can, affect their livelihoods in the future. Of course, a big part of the reason why we all work is because we want to earn money. But it's important to also make sure that the desire to earn money doesn't blind us, to the reality of the work that we are doing. I like to borrow this line from one of our partners in Ghana who says we need to have a bit of compassion and then also passion for what we do. It shouldn't always just be about we're sending students abroad to earn money, to earn a commission, after we're done, but it's about making sure that we're giving them the right opportunities to succeed, even after they have left, their home countries, they have settled into the new ones. And I'm very glad. I haven't said this to you, but I love to see the updates that you have on LinkedIn where you meet with your students at graduation, you have dinners with them, you follow up on their progress. I mean, Stephen, you really follow your students all over the country to see how they are doing and what they are doing. And this is what we need, in education partners, people who understand students, where they come from, what they hope to achieve. I didn't have this personally, but I'm glad to see that we're having a conversation now about the importance of what, people like you do in the whole process. And I'm really hoping that a lot more people will take the cue from people like you, people like Faith and her team, to be able to help students in this regard. So thank you for everything that you do, Stephen. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so privileged to know that you follow my posts and that you read them. It makes a meaning. It's a world to me. Yeah, thank you so much for that.
Very welcome.
And yeah, again, yeah, thanks for highlighting the role of international study consultants and agencies, because we play a very crucial role in this whole student
Absolutely.
journey. Um,
Absolutely.
we could say, like someone told me, one of my longest friends in this industry is from Zambia, from DALP. Shout out to you, Dr. Nkoma. He say we are the student, we are the food soldiers on ground, and you need those boots on ground, you know.
It's
So
true. This is
I would
true.
like to get again much deeper into this whole
Mhm,
conversation,
mhm,
Kofi, if you wouldn't mind,
mhm,
to talk about the role of the students themselves, because this is about
mhm.
them. So
It
whatever
absolutely is.
institutions do,
Mhm.
whatever agencies do, it's about the students.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, what should be the role of students in this whole conversation? What kind of questions should they be interested in asking
Mhm,
institutions in
mhm,
regards to the whole discussion of employability?
mhm,
What
mhm.
kind of benchmarks and
Yes.
verifiable indicators should they be looking at when they are
Yes.
making that choice of where to go to, whether to Germany or to US or Canada?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
also, which school or university should they be choosing when it comes to employability? What is their
This
role in this discussion?
this is a great question, and I like I said, I did this process myself about maybe it's coming up to some 10 years ago. I can't believe this. This is probably why all my hair has fallen out. But but then I had to ask myself these questions. Why did I want to go to Germany? What was I hoping to achieve there? Was I looking to begin a new life in this country? Was I looking to stay there to work? Did I want to work for a period and come back? I had to ask myself these questions. I think, unfortunately, students have the feeling that by outsourcing this process, application, preparation, visa submission process to agents or to partners, that it completely absolves them of any responsibility, in the process, which I think is very unfortunate. Um, I mean, you have examples of you would even have more examples than I do of, some students who get emails from schools after they have been admitted and simply don't open them, simply don't read. Simply don't answer them. And then, deadlines pass, deadlines for paying tuition pass, and deadline even for applying for your visa passes, which is a very crucial step in the process, and I think what students need to realize is that even though you have outsourced this very important function to a partner, to a consultant, it is still your responsibility to engage with the process, right? You need to follow the geopolitical situation. You need to ask yourself the relevant questions about the country that you are moving into. Things as minor as do they have, winter, spring, summer, autumn. Things as, about the food, about the culture, about the clothing. These are things that students need to ask themselves. You also need to ask about the employability prospects, right? So if you are going to study a course, again, I don't like to talk badly about any course. I'm somebody who really believes that people should follow their passion. But if you're going to study a course which you feel that might not be relevant in today's labor market or even the future labor market, are you making the right decision? Because again, I'll borrow your word, Stephen, studying abroad is an investment. It's not just about moving from your home country to another country to live there and to study there. It's an investment you are making. And at some point, you are hoping to have a return on your investment. So, are you making the right investment in your education, in the location? Is it going to come back to you? You know, and again, for those of us who come from the global south, for us, these are very huge investments that we make, into our education. And the hope and the dream when our parents, our friends, even our study abroad consultants drop us off at the airport is that we will come back, a changed person, an informed person, and also somebody that perhaps we will see a return on that investment. So students need to be engaged in the process. They need to ask themselves the relevant questions. They can outsource the process, but they still need to remain engaged. And this is also something that, again, I like that we consistently highlight. I've seen Faith in action. I've seen her doing this. I've seen her ask those questions. Have you spoken to your university? Have you gotten your documents? Have you responded to them? Come and meet the counselor. Come and meet the representative. I've gotten on calls with you where you are asking students the hard-hitting and the relevant questions. Pardon my French, but not taking any B word from prospective students. So this is something that students need to be engaged in. I can't emphasize on that enough. Yes.
Really well explained. The role of students is very crucial in making this all work, and particularly for Germany. You and I visited the German embassy when we were in Kampala.
Yes,
and
we did.
We understood firsthand how they expect students to take this on themselves,
Absolutely.
how they expect individual initiative and proactivity, because after all, they are giving you an opportunity of your life to make it here. So they expect that you should be taking a lead in this whole process. Kofi, we'll bring this to the end, and I would like to see, yeah, it goes so fast. We've been here almost for an hour, and time is running out so fast. And I wanted to hear your perspective on your oversight or your prospects for 2026. If you're thinking about employability and the role of universities, what should the institutions be doing in 2026 differently from 2025 or the years before? And also, finally, what should be your final remarks for anyone out there who is thinking of April intake? It's very close to us. What should students be looking at when they're thinking of coming to Germany and looking at a private university? Why should they give a closer look at PFH for the April intake, particularly 2026?
Great question. Great questions, let me say. There are three of them in there. So I think the first one is, reflections of what institutions can do better in 2026 is really understand what the industry is looking for, really understand what it means to develop your students, really understand what it means to make your students more self-aware, of where they come from, what they can contribute, and then most importantly, what their skills are and how they can, transfer these skills into any, organization, any business, any, entity. This is what organizations or institutions need to be doing with or for their students. Now, you also need to be seen. I think this is something that organizations need to do, and then also students need to look out for. Organizations should make these very strategic partnerships, right? And these partnerships should not just be things that you write on paper. They should be things that you actually work hand in hand with your partnering institution to achieve. So universities should be looking out for key relationships with organizations, where students can go for their first internships, where students can go for their first working student experiences, where students can go to work as full-time workers even after they are done studying. And students should be looking out for organizations which are making these types of moves, because what it means is that they are thinking not just about the period of time that you are with them, but they're also thinking about what happens to you after you leave their campus. So this is something I think organizations need to do. They need to understand their students. They need to understand what the desires of their students are. And they also need to really work hard on forming partnerships. We talk a lot about the fact that partnership should not just be something that you go out and say, I work with these institutions, you sell this idea to students. It should be a work in progress, a work in action. And students should be looking out for universities which are doing these types of things. I think another question that you also asked is about the April intake and what students should be looking out for, with regards to Germany and particularly the PFH. I like to say it's an exciting time in Germany at the moment, with different and various possibilities for third party or third country immigrants to be able to come here through education, through the Chancenkarte, through initiatives, such as working in key crucial sectors, the health sector. Stephen, you know a lot about this, talking about, the agricultural sector, talking about the technological sector, the engineering and construction sectors. People should take advantage of this. And, one of the reasons I say this is you want to have your foot in the door before the geopolitical situation changes. So, come one and come all and come quickly. I like to add that. Don't just come one, come all, but come very quickly. And if you are thinking about an organization that will put you on the right track, will give you the skills that you need, will give you the knowledge that you need to succeed, then you want to be looking at the PFH, a campus which is in the heart of Germany in Göttingen, very small, very family oriented, where you know your professors on a one-on-one basis, and where our courses set you up for success in the future. Another perk is you probably might end up in my class. So, I would see you when you come to class and be able to engage with you in my innovation management lectures. So then, yes, this is really what I can say about my reflections for 26, and then also what I'm seeing for the April intake. And I'm really confident that we're going to see a good number of students from all over, not just specific parts of the world, but even sub-Saharan Africa and hopefully Uganda, who would be looking to see Mukasa when they come to my campus.
Yes, yes, yes. And you said something very pertinent at the end. Coming to a university that recognizes that you're not just a student number,
Yep,
but you are a person. And I came to witness this firsthand when I visited the campus.
that's correct.
I told you for the first time, I saw a wall of fame
Hmm.
of
That's true.
a student's wall of fame. I have never seen this anywhere where students from the inception of the university were their faces were taken and hanged on those walls up to the
Yes.
current
Yes.
stage. And
Yes.
that really impressed me so much.
Yes.
And when I walked through the hallways of the school, talking to Professor Wagenfeiler,
Mhm.
talking to the student services and talking to the admissions, I felt like it was a small, like a family, like everything is
Mhm.
like around
Mhm.
a student.
Yeah.
So I couldn't say more to that. And I
Yeah.
totally believe that this is a great place for students to be
Mhm. Mhm.
come 2026 in April or in October.
Absolutely.
And maybe finally, you can also say for those who are interested right now
Mhm.
to apply for the April
Yeah.
intake,
Mhm.
just briefly in 1 or 2 seconds, how is the process like? Are they still in time to apply?
Absolutely.
And what are the key steps and how should they go about this whole process?
Absolutely. So they are still in time to apply. And what are the key steps? Get in touch with Affordable Study Consultant, Kirooto Consulting. They will really hold your hand and guide you through this journey of preparing your documents, preparing for your visa interview, and then also preparing you to make your journey to Germany after you have gone through this process. There are no deadlines at the PFH. We work on a rolling deadline basis. So if you can't make it in April, you can make it in October. But we have a fantastic team, on the ground by way of Stephen, by way of Paul, by way of Faith, who will really guide you through that process. So there's really nothing, that you should be waiting for at this point. Get in touch with the teams. They will be more than happy to help you. So yes, I'm turning it back to you, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Kofi. This was an amazing end of year podcast. And I'd like to give you again another opportunity to say your final remarks as we close this year and as we plan 2026.
Yes.
What is on your New Year's resolution as in the context of study abroad, in the context of student experience?
Mhm.
What's
Mhm.
on your bucket list?
Okay, so professional bucket list. I'll start with my personal. And I think you, Stephen, you know this. My resolution for 26 is to remain healthy. Internal joke between the two of us. But
That's
I
so
think
true.
But I think professionally, Stephen, I'm looking forward to working even more closely and on a better basis than we even have now with partners like yourselves. I'm looking forward to curating really relevant and good study abroad experiences for students. I'm looking forward to being part of, a team both internally and externally that really thinks about the complete overview of the students because when you have been a previous international student like I was, and you are working in a role which has an impact on other international students, you always want to make sure that it is one which is both worthy of the dignity and then also the, prospective abilities or success that the students can have. And this is what I'm looking forward to working on or working with in the future. So yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank
And it
you too,
was really an
Stephen,
amazing experience talking to you.
as
And thanks
always.
for all those who have joined us on this exclusive back-end viewership. And I'm looking forward to 2026 Kofi, going down to Kampala, to Mbarara, to other cities in Uganda and
Yes.
in Kenya
Yes.
with you.
Yes.
And yeah, good luck and good health, as you always say.
Thank you, Stephen. I wish you same.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too, Stephen. We'll keep in touch. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.